Okay, here's our interview with John Schneider.
Look at you with the whole black background and everything. It looks great.
Brother, we spent a lot of money on this background. I appreciate you calling attention to it. We actually had a nice studio in Encino until COVID. And when COVID hit, we weren't getting any in studio guests anymore. And so I'm like, screw it. What do we need this thing for anymore? So I'm now in about 100 square feet of my home in the corner of my bedroom with this thing in the background doing
that's great.
Same thing.
That's great. I think it's kind of amazing that all of these Zoom interviews and all this stuff is happening. I do miss actually being with people, though.
Yeah.
I miss. This is okay. Hopefully, it won't be it won't continue. It'll only be a matter of convenience.
Yeah.
Not just a matter of sort. Although you don't want to have all these people in your bedroom.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, John Schneider's been in my bedroom. That's a dream come true, my friend. A dream come true.
Thank you.
By the way, before we get started, my younger brother was huge Dukes fan. Now, I'll have to ask him. I'm not sure which character he liked, you or the other guy. So I'll assume it was you.
I'm pretty sure it was me.
So a shout out to Bill for me.
Hey, Bill, it's John Schneider. Wanted to say thank you for loving Dukes of Hazzard when you were little, and hopefully it still has a place in your heart.
I'm sure it does. He's probably teaching it to his children now. He's got I'm going to get this wrong and get in trouble, but something like 7 and 10, I'm going to guess.
Well, as long as they're not 20 and 30, then you'll be all right.
And you're catching me on a monumentous day because tomorrow morning I become a father for the first time, my friend.
Wow. Congratulations.
54 years old, first time. So
wow. How very Tony Randall of you.
Any advice for me before I launch on this endeavor?
Yeah. Make it so there's a belief that you sleep when your children sleep, but a baby is something that can be put on a schedule. So you should put the baby on your schedule. Take about a week.
Mm-hmm.
But resist the urge to have the baby put you on their schedule, because you'll wind up sleeping about every other hour, and it'll be terrible for you. So remember, it is your child. This baby is your child, and they are very pliant. They're just loud.
Yeah. I can't put the baby on.
Actually, I had a wonderful pediatrician tell me when my youngest was born, which is my only biological child, that he would say, does she get a good cry in every day? And it was like, oh, yes, she does. He said, well, that's great, because when babies can't move, they can't even roll over yet. The only exercise they get is by crying. So listen to that sound, not as a terrible sound that your baby is hurting or needing something, unless, of course, there's something going on.
Right.
If the baby's lying there and screaming, it's kind of like baby aerobics.
All right. I'm going to look at crying.
That's my advice right there.
I'm going to look at crying in a whole new light, thanks to you.
Yes. This is great. And cry with her. I used to go, I would cry with my daughter, Karis. And then she'd start to laugh. So, it's good.
And how old is she now?
She's 27.
Wow.
28.
Wow.
She's 28.
Nice.
Yeah.
All right. Well, here we go. My seatbelt is buckled. So what do we got going on behind you? Where are we?
We are at John Schneider Studios in Holden, Louisiana. So we have I don't know if it'll adjust. No, it won't adjust color-wise. We have a swamp back there. It is Louisiana, after all.
You really do have swamps in Louisiana.
That's right. So I am in my little editing cubicle here. We just finished. Well, you never really finish principal photography on a movie anymore until it's released, because I'm one of those guys. I've edited my first cut of the movie is edited. I make notes, and then I go, I wish I had a shot of, and I'll run out with my cell phone.
Wow.
And get an insert of, a gas gauge that's empty, or I don't know, a frog on a log or something. We can do that now. I wouldn't shoot a whole movie that way, but you can actually do some great. What we used to do. We'd come in and have a second unit come in and shoot pickup shots. Well, I shoot my pickup shots now on my phone.
That's
and
amazing.
it's quite wonderful. Yeah. So I'm loving being a filmmaker, which is really where I thought I was headed at about 8 years old anyway. So finally, I got a little distracted there and became a gun for hire. And now I'm back to what my original plan was, which was tell my own stories my own way with my own friends.
Very cool. Well, we can let that seg into how we originally reached out to you was about a year ago in the middle of COVID. And we had this concept that we didn't end up going through with, but it was giving a platform for actors to give their thoughts about today's hot topics, mostly political topics. And at that time,
right.
COVID is still going on, but kind of a cheap way for us to get publicity. And if they want to get publicity, because, we thought that actors love to talk politics in general, don't have a lot of forum for it.
A lot of them shouldn't, but
yeah, that was my brainchild. We thought of you because you're kind of known as a rare conservative in Hollywood.
Right.
But an obvious place to start though would be getting your thoughts on COVID. And by the way, I'd love if you're cool with that. That's what we'll talk some politics.
Sure, absolutely.
Okay, and then I wouldn't mind asking a few questions about your
talk about the scamdemic as much as you'd like.
Well, there you go. So, first of all, what's your personal story? Have you had COVID, and have you been vaccinated, my friend?
I'm one of those people that has that believes I had COVID. There's a whole school of thought when all of a sudden this stuff started happening a year and a half ago. Myself included, a lot of my friends said, maybe that's what was wrong. I don't know if you know anybody like that, but it wasn't quite the flu, and I wasn't as energetic as I usually am. But later on, as more and more people had it, we started recognizing that I think that's what I had last month. Because we travel a lot. We're now we drive. We don't fly anymore. I wouldn't fly in your plane. I refuse to be treated like an infected terrorist in my own country. So
you refuse to mask up. You don't like the whole masking on airplane thing.
No, I don't like the whole masking thing at all. I remember Asian folk being ridiculed by United States folk 10 years ago or so, because people would say, well, quite obviously, breathing has two parts. There's an in and there's an out. So when you breathe out, you are expelling toxins, which is kind of important. I read a study years ago, long before any of this stuff was going on, that the breathing out is actually as, if not more important. The exhalation of carbon dioxide is as, if not more important, than the inhalation of oxygen. So when all this stuff started going on, I thought, I'm not a fan of that. I'm also a fan of freedom. I have the right to be stupid. Right?
Right.
And if we're fighting for people's rights,
or smart, by the way,
pardon?
You also have the freedom to be smarter than others, because you might be stupid, or it might turn out to actually be smart.
What's implied by that? You have the right to make your own mistakes. So if not wearing a mask, and the only time I wore a mask during this whole thing was if I went into if I had to go into a store where you couldn't, right? Or you have to go to the bathroom. We travel a lot, so the insanity of what we've all been through is I would stop at a truck stop, have to wear my mask to go in to a restroom that hadn't been cleaned in a week, where there was no toilet paper, or very little, no soap, no hot water, and most of the time no towels in the towel dispenser. And yet, in the name of public health, I had to wear a mask. I don't get it.
Yeah. Well, I think you make a great point.
So the only time I wore a mask was if I went. My wife and I do dirt track racing. So there was a speed shop I went to, and a wonderful woman about 85 was in there, and there was a little sign on there, and she said, "Please, for my sake, wear a mask in my store." I said, "Absolutely. I'll wear 2 of them in your store. It's your store." Right? So it's been a very interesting time.
So back to whether you think you had. So as you sit here today, you're still not sure whether you had it.
No, I'm not sure whether. I'm pretty sure I had it, but
yeah. Well, I can tell you one of the telltale signs of whether you had it, because I did have it, is the losing of smell and taste. And then, as my wife just reminded me 10 minutes ago, as she was cleaning our couch, the loss of hair. She says she's still seeing, and I had it 6 months ago. She's still seeing my hair on the couch. So this is a very weird virus, as far as, losing smell and taste. I mean, I'm telling you, I would spray cologne on my hand, put it up like this, and couldn't smell it at all. Lost 75% of taste. And that was for, taste lasted for a month or so. So it's a very weird virus.
I remember when we started learning about that sort of thing, I would, it's kind of gross, but I would go,
that's like a good test.
See, or I would smell a cup of coffee. But that was once we knew all that.
Right.
But I remember, about a year and a half ago, being oddly sick. So I don't know whether I had it or not. And I again, I say that I do have the right to be either smarter than other people or stupid. I have that right. I have the right to make my own mistakes, as do you. Anyone who's listening, you have the right. Currently, anyway, there are people who are trying to take this right away, to make your own mistakes. So I don't in any way want to diminish the serious nature of whatever it is about COVID that is either hardly a bump in your life or an end to your life in other people. I do realize that did in fact happen. That is a frightening mystery about this particular virus. So I'm not diminishing the reality of it. I'm not diminishing the effect that it had on some people. However, it is difficult to look at the numbers of how many people died from pneumonia in the last year and a half, or how many people died of cancer, or how many people died of any number of other things. And for some reason, those have not been elevated to the level of pandemic, even though there are multiple times more people died from pneumonia than died from COVID in the last 24 months.
So when you
can do with that information what you will. You can check it and say I'm full of crap. I don't know what I'm talking about, but that's okay. You have the right to disagree, just as I do.
Yeah, at least you used to. These days,
well, yeah. What you don't have the right to do is enforce your beliefs on me. That's where we seem to have blurred the line. We used to say everybody has a right to their opinion. I think, excuse me, I think we still do. There are those who don't think we still do.
One of my favorite lines from when we were kids, we used to always say, "It's a free country. I can do whatever I want. It's a free country." For some reason, you don't hear that phrase as much these days, it seems to me.
Well, because, just like you don't hear people talking about the debacle that's going on in Havana right now. Beautiful city. My wife and I went there, I think, 3 years ago. Beautiful country. Cuba's a beautiful country. But because there are those who are trying to force a horse pill of Marxism and socialism down our throats, they refuse, or they are adverse to saying anything about what's going on in Cuba right now because it speaks against socialism. At least that's my perspective. They refuse to say anything about, what did I see the other day? The murder rate in Portland up 533%, 533%. And they refuse to say anything about it. You know, it's kind of human nature. You refuse to shed light on anything that invalidates your perspective.
Of course, yeah.
However, in the name of public good, I do, there's a tractor going by. In the name of public good and decency, I think at some point you have to say, you know, this is bad. This is hurting people. This is killing people. This is disarming people in a theoretical sense for what's coming down the road. And I need to stop doing it.
Well, there's also something called journalistic ethics that seem to have.
Well, there certainly was.
Yeah. I mean, what is your take?
Journalism. You remember that?
What is your take coming from the entertainment business on what you see with what really is at this point simply entertainment, which is the news, and how it is divided America to the point where if you watch Fox all day or you watch CNN all day, you're good.
Let's not forget Newsmax.
Fox or Newsmax or MSNBC or CNN. Sounds like you're not too big of a fan of Fox, but anyway, right. the listeners get the point. Yeah. You're seeing two totally different worlds. You're living in two different worlds. The things they cover, what they consider to be news on one channel versus another, as you were just pointing out, is totally different. How did we get here, and how do we get out of this?
That's a tough one because my first marriage was to a wonderful woman named Tawny Little. And she was the news anchor at Circle 7 at KBC with Jerry Dunphy back in the 70s and 80s.
By the way, I met her recently at a little fundraiser.
Oh, terrific.
Yeah, wonderful.
She's wonderful. She's wonderful. And so smart. But even in the 80s, they would kind of jokingly call their team the I'm Witless Snooze team. That's what they called each other not behind their backs, but, you know, and it's when I learned that it's sensationalism that sells. What used to happen is everybody used to cover the same train wreck. But now there's a refusal for one side, which is what's the problem is. There are sides. I do believe that Newsmax at least endeavors to explore some of the other side. Not completely, because you really can't. You really can't. But I think it's going to take someone on a YouTube channel to be Walter Cronkite. It's going to take someone on a YouTube channel or on a Vimeo feed, or someone like you on this platform, to be Charles Kuralt and Paul Harvey, Edwin Murrows, early Dan Rather. But when your feeling of self-preservation supersedes your need to dig into an investigative, I think that's the word, investigative journalism, then you've outstayed your welcome. You've outlived your dream. You've reached your goal, and you need to get out of the way. Because we have some wonderful young people. We have Candace Owens, who's doing some remarkable things. Her stuff is perhaps one-sided, but it's one-sided from a multiple level perspective.
Yeah, but she is a commentator. I mean, she would be the first to say that she's a commentator, as opposed to, I think what you're looking for is the stately Walter Cronkite that can be trusted to just deliver the news without commentary.
Right, or someone who can go can say, I looked into this. I went in looking for apples in this story. And part of me is sorry to say that I found oranges, but that's what I found. So I'm going to be talking about oranges today. So let's be honest. Let's actually look. The notion that there is nothing to see from November. Like I said, my wife and I race dirt track. In dirt track, and in much of racing, anyone has the right to question the top 5 placeholders in a race. You can challenge their car. You put up $500, the car is dismantled and the motor is gone over with a fine-tooth comb. The notion that someone's saying, wait a minute, we have reason to believe in 7 states, we have questions we need answered. For that to be considered a conspiracy theorist or somehow out of line is ludicrous. So we need to look into those things. The only people who, in my opinion, the only people who don't want their engine broken down are people who have something to hide in their engine. Seems to me to be fairly common knowledge or common sense.
But now you're a white supremacist if you suggest that.
Well, but that's people know people are full of crap that are saying all that stuff. I think deep down people know that's just not true. People are now what's her name in Georgia has now reversed her stance on saying that a government issued ID is somehow having to have a government issued ID is somehow racist. I believe she's now gone back and said, no, I didn't. That's not what I said. Or what people who have been caught. This is my 61-year-old experience talking. People who have been caught in a lie. Their first line of defense is saying, yes, that's what I said, but that's not what I meant. You misunderstood. We're hearing a lot of that right now.
But I mean, as far as people not believing this white supremacist stuff, I mean, I don't know. The left is doing a pretty good job of, and the
you're in
and
Encino. You're in Encino.
Well, that's true. That's true. It's a whole different world.
So, there's a whole big, wild, wonderfully free world out here.
I've traveled to it occasionally. I kind of like it. I was in Miami from February to March. Just spent a month there, and then came back to LA, and everybody's jogging around with masks in Los Angeles and so on. It's like I felt like I stepped back in time to this COVID time after living in the free world. It was like there was a time machine that sent me back 9 months back into COVID time when I returned to LA.
Right. Hey, what's going on with your governor?
So the election is going to be in September. The most recent news, kind of small news, I guess, but he's not allowed to put a D next to his name, so he won't be identified as a Democrat. His attorney screwed up. It was a law that Newsom passed himself as far as how recall elections would work. And the sitting governor has the choice whether or not to put his party affiliation next to his name, because he's really just running against yes or no. And then you have the other candidates. So his own attorney didn't identify whether he was a Democrat or Republican on there. And they sued to have it put on there. And the attorney basically said, hey, it was just an honest mistake. I didn't realize that law was now in effect. and
he just never thought it would apply to him.
Right. So the judge, I'm sure some liberal judge, but nonetheless, just couldn't shake the fact that, well, it says right here, you have to check this box, yes or no. So he'll be running without a D next to his name. Most people don't think that's really going to matter. I think the betting odds are he's probably a 60-40 favorite to survive. The kind of more interesting thing is if he doesn't survive, who replaces him. Right. This is the laundry list of 200 names with the porn stars and so on. This is how Arnold got elected originally in California. Right. And of course, we've got Caitlyn Jenner on there, who I've actually been backing. We've got John Falconer for San Diego mayor. We've got John Cox, who's already lost to Newsom the first time. And then Larry, the sage from South Central, Larry Elder, has just joined the race.
Really?
I assume you know of Larry.
Wow. Well, I tell you, that's great. I'm delighted that what this is showing the rest of the country is that California is not all liberal, not all extreme left, which nothing is all extreme, really anything. So I'm delighted that this is happening, and I'm delighted that someone is being what do you call it? Put their foot to the fire. Is that?
Yep.
Well, and
how about Garcetti in here in Los Angeles? He was run out of town. He's running off to become ambassador of India.
Wow.
not going to complete his term as mayor of the second largest city in America, and is instead hopping a plane over to Mumbai.
It's a very interesting world we live in, and it's getting more and more interesting every day. I knew Bruce way back when, and I tell you, I watched Caitlyn on a thing the other day, and if you'd have told me 20 years ago that would happen, I'd have said, well, that's fascinating. Flip Wilson. You mean like Flip Wilson with Geraldine? No. I mean, really. Then I would have thought that was a little out there, or fairly like crazy. You're out of your mind. However, having said that, I listened to Caitlyn Jenner the other night, and I think, truly, honestly, I think what California needs is Caitlyn Jenner, because this is a person who has been all throughout the world, who has achieved something that very few people really in the scheme of things have achieved. Oh, hang on.
No problem.
Coming back, I got a phone call. Clicks that off. It was Caitlyn Jenner. No.
Well, she'll definitely be very happy to hear what you just said. Please keep going.
Can speak on so many different levels about things that are so important to so many people. So when Bruce Caitlyn talks about the flag, talks about the getting up on the Olympic steps and what that means to you and what that means to your country and what that means to the world, and why biological males should not be able to compete head to head with biological females because it's not fair. Caitlyn can speak as to why. Caitlyn can speak as to sexual oppression, to being another thing is going by. Just to a litany of things that I don't know anybody else who could speak about that, any of those things, from the perspective that Caitlyn Jenner can.
Yeah.
And again, see, I'm a right-wing conservative, so by definition, I should be against all things Caitlyn Jenner, but I'm not, because I think that this is and now Christians are going to go crazy. I think this is such a time where only Caitlyn Jenner can speak to issues that are happening today, not only in the state of California, but everywhere. And I'm anxious to see what happens. I'm hoping that your estimate that Newsom is a 60-40 favorite is at least backwards.
Well, I got to tell you, I have a lot of Democrat friends, and none of them are supporting him. So that should tell you something. People are definitely pretty fed up with how he handled COVID.
I still don't see any Biden signs anywhere.
You don't see any Biden signs where you are?
Yeah, but I get around.
Well,
I get around.
Come to my neighborhood. Come to my neighborhood. You'll see plenty, and they're still up, and not a single Trump sign, even though, for sure, I know firsthand of the Trump supporters in my neighborhood, but they don't dare, John. They don't dare.
Why is that? I don't understand why conservatives, I mean, are we afraid to insult somebody? Are we afraid to be thought less of? I don't get it. I wear my Trump 2024 hat. And in fact, when I did wear the mask to go to the bathroom in the gas station and had no toilet paper, I had my Trump train mask on. But it was.
Have you worn it? Have you worn it in
It was in Oklahoma.
Exactly. Have you come to Los Angeles to wear it yet?
I did wear it in Los Angeles during the. We went to a restaurant. We had to. Here's what's so great about California: you had to wear your mask to wait in line to go to a table, and then you could take it off. But while you were waiting in line to go to your table, 3 people wearing masks, walking dogs, came through the restaurant from where they were sitting. So your dog is fine, let alone, I mean, you can have your dog in the restaurant. It was a fancy restaurant, but the dogs weren't wearing masks.
It's a good product, a doggy mask. I think that's a good idea.
No, I think it's past. We just came from Nashville, which was a lockdown, shut down town, and although the mayor shut people down who he didn't like and let other people, he deemed who was essential and who wasn't. But you can't find a single mask anywhere unless you look in the gutter, which is a shame because now masks are becoming the beer can of society in all those towns that have decided that breathing out is also important.
I think you've got. I can tell that there's kind of a theme to you as far as being authentic and speaking honestly about your beliefs. And back to the wearing the Trump hat or posting the Trump sign. I don't. Number one, I wasn't a huge Trump fan per se. I'm a Republican and I believe in his policies. Him as president, not my top choice of the 18 that are up on the stage. But I certainly supported him as our president. And I certainly supported his policies.
Right.
But as far as, wearing the Trump hat or whatever, I don't know. I guess I'm just kind of selfish in that sense that I just don't want to be annoyed by these annoying people. I just know that if I wear this hat, in Los Angeles, these people are going to cast scorn upon you, and I just don't need it. I'm just going to keep it to myself.
Yeah,
now,
that's fine.
The reverse is not true. These Biden people, they have no problem putting the sign on their lawn. In fact, I said to my neighbor, I said, you should feel happy that you're allowed to put the sign on your lawn and not get harassed, because Trump supporters, they can't put the sign on their lawn, at least not in my neighborhood.
Right. Well, they can, they just choose not to. And I understand that. That is part of being free, right? You can put whatever sign. We have signs, we back the blue. We still say, we have our signs that say we back the blue. This experiment of defunding the police is sure working out well in Portland and Chicago and Detroit. These are just wonderful places to live now.
But how have we gotten? I think it's fair to say it's becoming trite at this point that the country's never been more divided. But I think certainly it's true. I don't know. Maybe in the '60s, which is a little before my time, maybe it was more.
Well, division has never been so well marketed.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's a great point. But it's gotten to the point where people don't even want to. They're choosing where to live based on the politics of the people in that area. Politics have gotten so bad that, I was just talking to a friend who's thinking about moving to Orange County, but he's actually a Democrat and he doesn't really want to live around so many Republicans. It's like, we've lost like the common, what brings us together. What are the shared beliefs? It's all about what we disagree about, but it seems like what we agree about is getting smaller and smaller.
Well, I'm going to go out on a limb here. I do believe that is part of the nature of the liberal, which is odd because you would think liberal means liberal. You spread something liberally, it means it's kind of widespread and widely accepted. And therefore, somehow a liberal would accept widely diverse lifestyles or diverse opinions or diverse art or diverse music or whatever. But it doesn't seem to be the case. I I can honestly say that in my world, and I travel a lot, I meet a lot of people, that conservatives by nature don't think you're an idiot if you don't agree with them. They won't call you a name because you disagree. I think that, in my experience again, that conservatives welcome debate and discourse. Liberals seem to, of all people, be narrow-minded, which seems to me to be counterintuitive.
Right.
But that's what I see. I have a lot of friends who are, or not a lot, I have a number of friends who are quite liberal, who love me to death, but tell me I'm what planet are you from? You're an intellectual idiot. How can you believe that? You're smarter than that. There's the one. Gosh, John, you're so much smarter than that. I don't know any conservatives that would say that.
Right.
Now I'm sure there are some. I'm sure there are some, but
well, and by the way, it's not the level of smartness, and that's what the left gets wrong. I think it's called common sense, which is kind of different than being intellectual or being smart. It's called having common sense, and
I agree.
Right? I mean, that's really the key to understanding, proper role, in my opinion, of
well, I think liberals, for whatever reason, and I guess I am generalizing, but I have enough experience, I think, that I can say this. They will, common sense only goes up to the point where it has a possibility of shifting their perspective. Like, nobody wants to talk about Cuba. Nobody wants to talk about Havana. They don't want to talk about that because Havana is a current picture of a people who have been suppressed by communism and socialism and ism, who want to be free people. That doesn't fit with the current liberal narrative that socialism and not communism, and we're helping communist China celebrate 100 years of oppression. I mean, that's like helping celebrate the winter campaign where Custer went through, and I think Sherman, I think William Tecumseh Sherman was part of it, where they went through in the wintertime intentionally and killed every man, woman, and child who was of red color that they could find in their sleep. Let's celebrate that. Let's help someone celebrate 100 years of communist China. What the hell are we thinking? No. Common sense dictates, at least to the degree of which I defy common sense, dictates that is akin to helping Nazis celebrate 100 years of oppression in Germany. Let's celebrate 100 years of genocide. Why? That is, I mean, when I heard that, was it last week? My God. That's not
China's
States
pointed
of America.
People point to China as this incredible, successful model of government. When the truth is, the only reason they're having any success right now is they actually did liberalize their economic system to some extent, and that's brought
right. That's the only place they're experiencing any peace, if you will, or any humanity, if you will. No, it's crazy. What communism does eventually, I believe, is what we're seeing in Cuba right now. People can only be under the thumb of an oppressive society so long. And until finally, what was that wonderful movie, Network? I'm mad as hell and I'm not going to take it anymore. Albert Finney. People need to be free. People are free in this amazing, wonderful experiment in which we live. Socialism is not the ism of a free people. It has not worked anywhere except for those who enforce socialism. Works great for them.
Right.
So Next time you want to lament the rich guy or rich girl down the street or across the block or in that building down the road, you ain't seen nothing compared to what the rich guy has in China.
Yeah.
You know, who owns the thumb that is pressing you down is a rich guy or girl, and probably comes from a family of rich guys or girls, because they are celebrating 100 years of getting filthy, stinking rich off the sweat and blood of your not free back. Blah, 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 blah.
Yeah.
Blah.
When government and business is the same thing, that is a recipe for major corruption. And inequality of wealth.
Any surprise that all this celebration of China and all this rhetoric about what a wonderful country China is comes on the heels of having a president who probably has multiple deals with China? Is that a surprise to anyone? Or is the contents of Hunter Biden's laptop really of no consequence? I mean, what is he playing? Is he playing Angry Birds? Is that all that we have to worry about? Is he playing games on that laptop, or is there something to see there? What happened to Bobolinsky? Where did he go?
I don't know. Where did we haven't seen that?
Don't know.
Yeah.
Don't know.
Well, supposedly the FBI's got the laptop and he's under some type of investigation. It's going to be very interesting to see if.
Yeah, but can you imagine? This is again my perspective, but can you imagine if any of that had been said about any of the Trump children? Can you imagine what a shitstorm, pardon me, that would have been?
Well, how about the Hunter Biden art sale? Can you imagine if that was Don Jr. selling art that he had just created? He's never been an artist. Insane.
It's insane. And you know what my perspective, I knew President Trump back in the 90s. And from my perspective, just look at his children. Look at his children. Look at what they have done with the opportunity provided to them, the opportunities. Look what the United States of America did with the opportunities provided during that very short 4 years, while that man was dodging every bullet and every arrow and ducking. And no one has been under any of that sort of, not just scrutiny, but out and out attack. And he still is. He's still the only thing that the current administration has to talk about.
Yeah. And CNN,
they certainly can't talk about all that they've done.
Well, and how about just to pile on that for a second, the big lie that they'd like to talk about today. The big lie was this Russian collusion nonsense, right, from day one, that he faced impeachment over a big lie. That's the big lie. That he dealt with that for 2 years.
So again, I want to tear down the Biden race car engine. I want to see if there's something illegal in there. That should be my right. And if you are innocent, here's another thing nobody talks about. If you win a race, you're excited you won the race. First thing you're going to want to do if somebody challenges you is say, I tell you what, I'll pay the $500 so that you can tear my engine down, so that we can put an end to this, because I won. Right? So if you are above reproach, I would think that you would invite scrutiny. But that's not what happened, is it? That's still not what happens. Now we have a press secretary that says things like, well, yes, we wrote the statement about Cuba in the president's words. What does that mean? We wrote it in the president's words? I'll tell you what that means is he hasn't read it. He didn't say it. He didn't think it. He didn't read it. He's got no idea what you're putting out there.
Yeah.
The access. Part of me wants to feel sorry for Joe Biden, but the other part of me remembers all the pictures and video of him groping young children, and he just disgusts me. He is my president. He is not my representative in any way, shape, or form.
Yeah, the access we had to Trump was just incredible. The people's access to knowing exactly what their president believed, like it or not. He's out there every day fielding questions. Biden is as soon as the first question is asked, he's already walking away, like he's got somewhere important to go. It's like, wait a minute, how is it that Trump had time to spend? He sat there until the last question was asked, and Biden's got to run after the first question.
Well, sounds to me like somebody who's got something to hide. And Trump is still that way. You know, he's still that way. What an amazing thing we are witnessing. Much to the chagrin, I'm sure, of the left. I mean, they probably think it's ridiculous. But here is a man who has managed to maintain his leadership among his constituency. He has maintained his leadership, and we are believing in a major turnover in 2022. I don't know. It's getting harder and harder to find what the findings are and what the potential backlash of any wrongdoing in Arizona and the voting system in Arizona or Pennsylvania or Georgia. I keep reading about things, but so far I haven't heard any conclusive results either way. But I'm anxious to see what happens in the midterm elections. I mean, I think a lot of things are going to be turned around because we're not a socialist country. I'm 61. I was too young for Vietnam and too old for anything else. But I know a lot of people that serve this country, and the sad apparent fact that there are people who are calling the flag that many citizens of this great country died protecting. They are calling that and turning that into a divisive symbol is, to me, nothing short of treason. It's very disheartening. Although the very thing the flag stands for is freedom. So I suppose it protects its right. It protects your right to attack it. But my personal belief is that it's strong enough to withstand it. That flag is not going anywhere. And now this comes from someone who, when the rebel flag was attacked, the Dukes of Hazzard has been attacked. I'm one of the first people that will say, well, if anyone should have a problem with the flag, it should be the Indians, the Native Americans, against the flag of the United States, because hundreds of thousands, if not millions of them, were executed under it. So I understand that as well. So it's a very complex world we live in. I'm glad we're talking about it.
Yeah.
Because a lot of people just won't talk about it. You know, they accept propaganda at face value and don't even bother to think it through.
You hit on a subject I hadn't even thought to ask you about, but it's a good one in light of Dukes of Hazzard, and that is the Confederate flag. And you're down there in Louisiana and so on. So, how should people, in your opinion, think about the Confederate flag? And is it okay to fly in the South
flag,
or not?
I call it the rebel flag. All I can speak about with regard to that flag is what it means to me. I don't have the right to enforce my opinion on you. That flag, I'm from New York. I'm from Mount Kisco, New York. So when I was growing up, that flag was on a Charlie Daniels album. It was on a Leonard Skinner album. I think the first time I remember seeing it, it was wrapped around Keith Richards' leg in front of the Alamo. And what that meant to me, and I assume to those who displayed it in that day and age, was that they were rebelling against an oppressive, in the 60s, they'd call it the man, against an oppressive government, an oppressive society. A rebel flag meant you thought outside of the conventional button-down shirt times that people lived in. When it was placed on the roof of the General Lee, I just watched the show called Happy Birthday, General Lee. Cooter talked about what it was. It was rebelling against an oppressive society. That's what that meant. Had no racial connotation whatsoever. A whole other conversation we could have would be about Civil War and the what started and ended that, and applying logic to a lot of the things we've been taught. But to me, that symbol is nothing more than that. I heard a wonderful speaker a couple of weeks ago. Oh no, gosh, been over a year now. Say, I remember when the guy that did that terrible thing, he was standing in front of a rebel flag. I remember the picture, but he was wearing a Gold's Gym tank top. So I put up on my Facebook before they were censoring people. I put up on my Facebook, well, I guess then that the Gold's Gym muscle tee is also the universal sign of racism. And nobody got it. It was a little, I guess it was a little obscure. But for the Dukes of Hazzard to be taken off the air because a group of people, however small or however large, have determined that that flag was on there because Dukes of Hazzard was making a racial statement is absurd to me.
Has that happened?
And it's not fair, and it's throwing the baby out with the bathwater. That's not what it meant to us.
John, I didn't realize.
No more than me having white bed sheets in my chest of drawers means I'm a Klansman. Because last time I checked, Klansmen wear white bed sheets.
It's a symbol of racism. White bed sheets. They should be banned.
I guess so.
So tell me, I didn't know this, John. Has it been taken? Dukes of Hazzard has been taken off?
Oh, it's been off the air for years.
For that reason.
Yeah. Yeah, because it's by the same reason why people are afraid to wear their Trump hat in Encino. Doesn't mean they don't have one. You know, there are. I have never had anyone of any color personally come up to me or the car. We have two of them here at the studio, and say that's a sign of oppression and racism. Never.
During the. Let me ask you this: during the entire time that Dukes of Hazzard was on the air, was that ever alleged?
No. Never.
That's the left's. They're just looking for anything that they can call racist to fit their narrative that America is this hopelessly racist country. So they have co-opted what you're saying is basically this rebel flag and co-opted it as a symbol of racism for them to use to their advantage to say, see, we told you, look at all these racists out there. And
well,
they turn
James,
this flag into a racism.
I have a theory about that too. Is that so many things and so many people are being called racist. I'm not saying there's no racism out there, but if you think Bo and Luke tooling around in Hazzard County in the General Lee is racist, then that probably means you have never met a racist. A racist is a scary thing. Someone who truly believes that because of the color of their skin, they are better than you, or that because of the color of yours, that you should be subservient to them, is a frightening man, woman, or child. And they're out there. They're just not as many as you are trying to make the rest of us think there are. And thank God there aren't. And I'll say this. Racism or supremacy, regardless of whatever color you put in front of it, is wrong. Supposed years or decades or centuries of oppression do not give you the right to then turn around and oppress someone else. That defies logic. That defies common sense. And that is something we're seeing more and more today. That's a scary sight.
Yep, it's pretty scary what they're trying to do with race to divide this country. I'll just wrap up on one maybe perhaps happy note, which is the 1980s. You're kind of that was kind of your period, and I consider it my period. Reagan was our president. Dukes of Hazzard is on the air. Patriotism is in the air, and it just seems like that's so long ago at this point.
Well, you know, somebody last week said they saw a picture from Dukes and they said, wow, you had that 80s haircut. And I said, no, the 80s had my haircut.
Nice.
You know, it still kind of does that. Look at it. Crazy.
It's looking good.
Crazy. It's not falling out and I can still smell.
But so I saw a picture when I was doing a little research of you with President Reagan. I was very jealous.
Oh yeah. Thank you. Yeah, he was a remarkable guy. Let me do a little quick promotion. Folks, if any of this stuff has rung true with you and you want to see the kind of movies someone who speaks and thinks like I do make, then please go to johnschneiderstudios.com or cineflixdod.com and check out Stand On It or Tres Leches, or we did a very unusual movie about Alzheimer's called 1 Month Out. Barry Bostwick is in that movie. Ruth Buzzy is in that movie. We've got a lot of films there, and they're thought provoking. Some of them are just good old fashioned fun. Stand On It is a tribute to Smokey and the Bandit. So check it out. Check out the music, or get my app. I'm a child of 2021. I have my very own app.
Wow.
It's called John Schneider. It's a stalker's best friend. It'll take you to all these different platforms of which I speak. And I think you'll enjoy it. You might even enjoy it if you have a Biden sign in your front yard. Who knows? Risk it.
Well, you know, you should be happy to see a lot of times those positive message movies are the ones that do the best at the box office. I mean, they're really people are starved for that kind of stuff.
Oh yeah, yeah. It's like early on in this conversation. You know, we need Charles Carroll. We need Paul Harvey. We need what was it? There was a wonderful Anne Murray song. I think it was Anne Murray. We sure could use a little good news today.
Right.
There's a lot. I'm gonna leave you with this. You will find today what you look for. If you look for hatred and racism, that's all you'll see in Encino. If you look for fellowship and humanity, that's all you will see in Encino. That's all you will see anywhere. So what you see in this world today and tomorrow, and remember, tomorrow is not promised. One of these days, you're not going to make it to tomorrow, and neither will I. What you see and what you experience today is entirely up to you. Go find wonderful things today. Expect great things to happen, and they will.
Thank you again to John. You can check out everything he's up to at johnschneiderstudios.com, johnschneiderstudios.com. Thank you to our producer, Michael Parker. Thank you all for listening. We'll be back soon with another episode of The Hidden Truth Show.
Thank you for listening to The Hidden Truth Show with Jim Breslow. You can find us at hiddentruthshow.com. Follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at Hidden Truth Show. Join us again next week for another episode of Hidden Truth Show with Jim Breslow.